Mercedes 500 SL. And if you love the Mercedes R107, this might be, in your opinion, the best car Mercedes ever made. Now, some people might look at this car and say, yeah, it's nice, but... Cut for a second. But your flavor might be more like this, the W113 280SL. Now, as we talked about in some of our other videos, these are two radically different cars. The 113 was made until 1971, until the 107 replaced it. And the 107 was further developed until Mercedes had the 500 and 560 SL variants available for the world market. Now the 107, while it is extremely fast and lithe and extremely capable at high speeds, the 113 has all of the sexiness that some people think Mercedes-Benz never quite recaptured after the end of the 70s. If you look at the 113, you can tell it's a much smaller car, a much more agile car. The 113 was jam-packed with this wonderful 6-cylinder engine. It had some neat design features like the beautiful grille, the hood that opened backwards. The 113 was Paul Brock's most noteworthy design for Mercedes-Benz. And you could tell that instead of having the presence of the 107 that looks like the Hammer, this has the appearance of fine jewelry almost. It's low, it's sleek. It has this intriguing grille and front end where it almost draws you in because of how beautifully constructed it is. This is the Mercedes-Benz for somebody who demands the best aesthetically from the Mercedes-Benz product. This is an art form that Mercedes-Benz never quite was able to recapture in the world of safety and government that almost killed the design of the automobile. And as a result, the 113 has managed to leave its impression in the marketplace, simply because it looks and appeals to more people than the 107 does from an aesthetic point of view. Now, some of you may disagree with me, but the 107 is more of a weapon, and that's why I refer to it as the Hammer, or if you look at it from the perspective of somebody who wants to be able to use their car, it is a higher commercial value, it is a better commercial value, a better intrinsic value proposition. If you look at this, the way this thing is designed with the cast aluminum rear controllers, which are used mostly on the 500 and 560 SL, but were also available as an option on the other models, and you look at how solidly this car is manufactured, it almost seems like the 107, while not graceful or agile, is made of a block of solid metal, steel. You can tell that every aspect of this car was designed for strength, rigidity, and safety, which even from underneath the car, looking at the engine and the front suspension, you can tell that Mercedes-Benz was leaving nothing to chance. Not to say the 113 isn't well designed. In fact, you could say it is just as well designed. But the 107 is extra heavy duty, if there was a word to describe it. Now, when you look at the other characteristics of the 107, such as its front end, its bumpers, this is the European version, by the way. Remember, the American version has the huge bumpers. You look at its grille, which has some embedded plastic in it. You look at the horns, which are kind of small compared to the giant horns that were used on the 113. You can tell that this is basically a summary of differences. The 113 had no plastic in it. Everything was metal or wood or chrome or some kind of material that just doesn't disintegrate. Whereas the 107 had to have some weight-saving and environmentally friendly features built into it. Some people would say this is the beginning of the end, but on the 107, I don't think they're prevalent enough to make a difference. Now, mechanically, the 113 is not nearly as tough as the 107, at least from the mechanical longevity perspective. I find that we have to do more major engine work on these cars than on the 107s. The 107s sometimes need timing chain tensioners, and fuel injection work, but because the 130 engines and the 280 SLs were pushed so hard and they had to work so much, often they need additional repairs. Behold, a rebuilt, re-zinc plated 113 engine, the M130 983 motor used in the 280 SL. This motor is not just it wasn't just used in the 280 SL. It was used in a lot of Mercedes engines, but it's a 2.8 liter 6-cylinder, and it had to work a lot harder at higher speeds. Because of this and the fact that I think they weren't maintained as well, we tend to see a need for more mechanical repairs on these engines. And as a matter of fact, 2 of these cars are getting engine repairs right now in our shop, this car and the brown car. However, the 107 seems to soldier on with just oil changes and, if you have an earlier car, valve adjustments. The motors that they used in these cars were incredibly tough, and they were designed to be used to their limit, and I think they tolerated that limit better than the M130 engine. Now, the M130 engine is a reliable engine, thanks in part to the mechanical injection system, but there's no substitute for displacement. And cars like this 500 SL or the 560 SL have as much displacement as you'll ever need. You'll run out of road before you run out of power. One other thing about the 113 that I see as part of the value proposition is that you're going to pay a lot more money for a less well-maintained example. For example, if a 450 SL showed up in my shop in this condition with the engine seized, with some rust here and there, having sat for 35 years, I'm not entirely sure that somebody would go through the trouble to save the car, but because this is a 280 SL, it's getting treatment that a 450 necessarily wouldn't get. Not to say that the 107 doesn't deserve it. The 107 is a great car and deserves all the mechanical attention you want to give it, but this car's future is almost guaranteed because it's a 113. And if you're buying a 113, you have to really pay up to 300% more than a 107 to get the best example. Meanwhile, cars like this 107, without needing much mechanical work and being able to deliver higher cruising speed and better performance, are going to cost a lot less. And as a result, you get a lot more usability out of the car for the money you spend. Parts are cheaper and more readily available. Mercedes Benz is not the only source of certain engine parts or brake parts or suspension parts.
Face the camera.
And at the same time, you get a car that you could easily do 100 miles an hour in all day. While there are things you could do to a 113 to make it faster, the 107 is basically a hot rod right out of the box, especially the big engine cars. Anyway, I hope you found this tour of the differences between the two cars to be helpful and comprehensive. I hope that you also felt that this video added value to your search if you're looking at getting a Mercedes SL. And in the meantime, if you really like this video, please think about supporting us on Patreon. This is strictly because you love our content. We'll also be happy to help you for an additional fee. But most of all, I want you to enjoy loving your Mercedes Benz. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And if you have any questions, feel free to email us or leave a comment below. Thank you.